The only sound in that sterile room was the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor. It was a fragile, metallic heartbeat, keeping time for my daughter-in-law Anya, who lay so still beneath the wires and blankets. My own phone, heavy in my lap, buzzed once. A notification glowed. It was a photo, sent from my son's best friend's account. There was my boy, Alex, a wide smile on his face, a drink in his hand, caught in the golden light of a party. In that moment, holding Anya's cold fingers, I understood a terrible truth. The man I raised was in that picture, but the son I thought I knew was right here, fading with every beep from this machine. Anya came into our lives like a quiet sunrise. Alex had always been a storm, charismatic, loud, the center of every room. I loved his energy, but I often worried about its direction. Then he brought Anya home. She was an artist, thoughtful and calm. Where he was all sharp angles, she was soft curves. She didn't just listen, she heard people. I saw how she grounded him, or so I thought. Their wedding was simple, beautiful. I remember pulling Alex aside, squeezing his hands. "You found a good one," I'd whispered. "Don't ever take that for granted." He'd laughed, that easy, confident laugh. "Relax, Ma, I've got this." They moved into a flat not far from my little house. I'd have them over for Sunday dinners. Anya would help me cook, her hands deft with herbs and spices, while Alex scrolled on his phone, talking about big deals at work, the bonus he was sure to get. I started to notice little things, how he'd interrupt her, how he'd promised to fix a leaky tap for weeks. And Anya would eventually call a handyman, saying gently, "He's just so busy." There was a quiet deference in her, a habit of smoothing things over. I told myself it was just their dynamic, young love, but a small, cold knot began to form in my stomach. It was the fear that my son had learned to receive love, but not truly to give it. The accident happened on a Thursday evening. Anya was driving home from her studio. A truck ran a red light. The call from the hospital turned my bones to water. I phoned Alex immediately. His voice was panicked, shattered. "I'm on my way, Ma. I'm leaving right now." We met in the ICU waiting room, his face pale, hands shaking. We held each other. The doctors were grim. "Severe internal injuries, critical condition, induced coma." The words washed over us, cold and clinical. We spent the first night there, side by side in those awful plastic chairs, united in our dread. The second day, the fatigue was bone deep. I told Alex, "Go home, shower, sleep for a few hours in a real bed. I'll stay. I'll call if anything changes." He hesitated, then agreed, his eyes hollow. He squeezed my shoulder. "Thanks, Ma. I'll be back by evening." Evening came, then night. He didn't return. My calls went to voicemail. The worry for him layered on top of the terror for Anya. Had something happened to him, too? I was nearly sick with it. Then, around midnight, my phone buzzed with that photo. A social media update, not even a text to me. There he was. The caption read, "Needed to clear my head with the boys. Thanks for the love." The location was tagged at a rooftop bar. The glass in his hand was full. His smile was empty, but it was a smile nonetheless. Sitting there, with the smell of antiseptic in my nose and the sound of Anya's life support in my ears, I felt the foundation of my family crack straight down the middle. He showed up the next morning, just after 9, carrying a paper cup of coffee. He smelled of shampoo and cologne. "Sorry, Ma," he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "I just collapsed at home. Slept for 12 hours straight. The stress, you know." I just looked at him. I didn't mention the photo. The lie was a physical weight in the space between us. That lie became the new normal. His visits to the hospital grew shorter, more perfunctory. He'd tap on his phone, sigh loudly about the uncomfortable chairs, talk about how work was piling up. "She's stable, right?" he'd say, as if stable meant all better. I, on the other hand, had moved in. I had a small bag by the chair. Nurses knew me by name. I learned the rhythms of the machines, the shift changes, the way Anya's brow would sometimes furrow as if she were dreaming. One afternoon, a week in, Alex arrived looking agitated. "Not worried, Ma. We need to talk about the medical bills. They're astronomical, and her studio rent is due. I can't manage it all." He spoke as if it were a logistics problem, a spreadsheet error. My voice was quiet. "What are you saying, Alex?" "I'm saying maybe we need to think about long-term care options, or, you know." He couldn't even say the words. He was already thinking of an exit, a way to lessen the burden on his life. I felt a fury so pure it was cold. "She is your wife," I said, each word a stone. "You are not moving her. We will manage." He left in a huff, saying I was being emotional. The final straw was 2 days later. He came to check in before what he called a crucial client dinner. He stood over Anya, looking down at her. He didn't touch her. He just said, almost to himself, "This is such a mess." Then he turned to me. "You look tired, Ma. You should really go home." In that moment, I wasn't looking at my son. I was looking at a stranger who saw the woman he vowed to love as a mess to be cleaned up after he left for his dinner. I needed air. I walked the hospital corridors, my mind a storm. I ended up near the chapel, and there, sitting on a bench, was Anya's mother, Rita. We had hugged, cried together in those first days, but had been taking shifts, passing like silent ships. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but clear. We talked of small things at first. Then, she took a deep breath. "I found something," she whispered. When I went to their flat to get Anya's things for the doctors, a folder in Alex's study drawer, she pulled out her phone, showed me a photo of a document. It was a loan application. Alex had been trying to borrow a significant amount against their shared flat, the one in both their names. The application date was the week before the accident. His stated reason: business, investment, and liquidity. The world tilted. This wasn't just neglect born of fear. This was a pattern. He had been planning to leverage their shared asset, their home, without her knowing, just before fate intervened. Rita's hand gripped mine. He was going to risk her home. And now he just wants to limit the financial damage. The cold knot in my stomach turned to iron. This was the man sharing a home with my gentle Anya. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by Anya's bed, my mind clear and calm for the first time in weeks. This was not about shouting or dramatic confrontations. This was about protection. Quiet, legal, immovable protection. The next morning, I called a lawyer, an old friend I trusted implicitly. I laid out the facts, the loan document, the situation. "My priority," I said, "is that Anya's care is never in doubt and her assets are secure." My friend was quiet, then said, "As her mother-in-law, your direct power is limited, but as her family, we can build a wall." The plan was methodical. First, with Rita's full agreement, we used the power of attorney Anya had wisely granted to her mother years ago to freeze any joint financial moves Alex could attempt. Next, we worked with the hospital social worker to formally document that Anya's primary next-of-kin advocate was Rita, with me as secondary support. Due to conflict of interest with the spouse, we were polite, precise, and provided documentation. We didn't accuse Alex of anything. We simply acted. I then did the hardest thing. I went to my own bank. I had a modest savings account, money I'd put aside over a lifetime of small frugalities, my rainy day fund. This was a hurricane. I set up a direct, dedicated line to pay for Anya's ancillary care needs, anything not covered by insurance. It was my penance and my promise. The confrontation happened not in the hospital, but in my own living room. Alex came over, his frustration finally boiling over. "Ma, what is going on? The hospital finance office is bypassing me. The bank won't talk to me about the flat. Have you and Rita been interfering?" I poured him a cup of tea, my hands steady. "We've been ensuring Anya's safety," I said. "We know about the loan." Alex's face went slack, then flushed with anger. "You went through my things. That's my business. I was doing that for us, for our future." "A future she knew nothing about," I said, my voice still quiet. "You were at a party, Alex, while she fought for breath. You've been looking at her as a problem to solve, not a person to fight for." He spluttered, defensive, talking about stress, about needing an escape, but the justifications were hollow, childish. Finally, he glared at me. "So, what? You're taking her side. I'm your son." I looked at this man, this boy I had carried and loved. "I am on the side of the person who cannot speak for herself," I said. "And right now, that is not you. Until you remember who you vowed to be, the walls will stay up. You are welcome to visit your wife, but you will not decide her fate. We will." The fight drained out of him, replaced by a stunned, bewildered silence. He had expected tears, a shouting match he could win. He was not prepared for the quiet fortress of a mother's resolve. Anya's recovery was long and painfully slow. She woke from the coma fragile, confused. Alex did visit, often awkward and subdued. The truth of those early weeks was a shadow between them, one they may never fully erase. Rita and I became an unshakable team, a united front of care. When Anya was finally well enough to understand, we told her everything, gently, with the lawyer present. She cried for the betrayal, for the loss of what she thought she had. But she also held my hand so tight. She moved in with Rita during her long rehabilitation. The flat was sold, the assets separated cleanly and fairly through lawyers. There was no messy drama, just a sad, legal untangling. Alex lives in an apartment now. We talk. It is careful, distant, the easy warmth is gone. I mourn it every day, but I do not regret my choice. I had to choose between enabling my son and protecting my daughter. I chose protection. Sometimes, the hardest act of love is not holding on, but holding up a mirror and being willing to lose what you see reflected in it. If this story touched you, please let me know in the comments. Your support helps us share more calm, emotional narratives about family, love, and difficult truths. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Stories That Move You for more stories like this.